I do think it's crazy because you even sometimes those who are speaking out against it seem to
Mm.
be speaking out against it, but they secretly want it to happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Ish, for me, I think propaganda is very big, and
Mhm.
then but I read an article where the Iranian minister of something like nuclear, he admitted that the nuclear facilities, they were really bad, damaged, which is, you can literally tell they've been hit so much. But also, it's just like, you can't compare Iran to Israel, because Israel
Mm.
needs support from the West, while Iran is really a sovereign state, which is,
Mm.
and they were very quick. The Americans, they were very quick, because they knew Israel is gonna lose, because they lost, actually, based on budget. They can't
Mm.
continue fighting Iran because they run out of money, and they need money from America. So
Mm.
I don't know. What do you understand about that? I don't know. You can quote me if I'm wrong, because that's what I've read.
Mm. Mm. Well, I must say I don't know much about the money situation, but what I do know, for example, is that um so basically the situation is that America and a lot of the Western world, they don't want Iran to develop nuclear energy to the point where they can manufacture medicine, bombs and weapons. And
Yeah,
but Israel has nuclear capability, and Israel has nuclear bombs.
exactly.
America has nuclear bombs. Russia has nuclear bombs. So it seems like there are certain technologies that only a select few are trusted with those technologies. And if you even think about South Africa, for example, Denel, the Denel is an arms manufacturing company. It used to be a
Yes. Yeah.
state-owned institution. When apartheid ended, part of the agreement that was that Mandela made also was that South
Yeah.
Africa will not develop nuclear weapons. But the Afrikaners, when
Yeah.
they were in
Yeah.
power, they were developing nuclear weapons. So somehow the Afrikaners could be, according to the West, have more custody and be able to deal with the nuclear weapons better than maybe former terrorists, because Mandela was also seen as a terrorist, right? So a former terrorist
Exactly.
leader, who now has like nuclear weapons, so that whole, for me, that's one of the big questions for me, that why is it that some countries can be trusted with nuclear weapons and other
Yeah.
countries are, are not to be trusted with nuclear weapons, so that's what stands out for me with this whole Israel-Iran fight.
Yeah. As for Africa, like, it's actually very sad. We don't have any country with the biggest army that can representing us to the top of the world. Um, and also, if you like, the face atomic bomb that was
Mm.
the uranium that was used to bomb Nagasaki and
Mm.
Hiroshima came from Congo. So,
Oh.
and then,
Mm.
yeah,
I
they
didn't
had
know that.
to.
Mm.
It's come from Congo. The mining called Shinkolobwe mining, which is
Mm.
located in the southeastern Congo in Katanga, but
Mm.
they had to dismantle everything after that, and
Mm.
then they took a big number of uranium, so I mean they can use it to their favor and
Mm.
stuff like that. But yeah, so I think it's all about keeping the power, and they don't want Africa just to have those certain power.
Mm.
This is the reason why they were after this guy of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, because now he signed a deal with Russians nuclear programs, where he wants um, to develop some nuclear facilities in Burkina Faso and in Mali also. So that guy, they are after him. They are
Yes,
really
yes,
after him.
yes.
Did
So
you see that?
Yes, I have, but also, the thing about Traore also, what I've noticed is that there's also a lot of fake news about him as well. Ghana is very close to Burkina Faso, and there are some Burkina Faso, citizens that
Yeah.
are not exactly happy with Traore. I've been in. I know of certain people that can't even attend policy discussions, and they don't even want their names to be mentioned that they
To be
attended.
mentioned.
Yes, because they are afraid of persecution from Traore.
Oh, oh, really?
So
Is he a dictator?
so I don't know, and it's not for me to say, but I do think that when it comes to military regimes, power, is political power is through the gun.
Yeah.
Every government, you need a military, you need an army, and you need a police. A government is the person who has the organization is having a monopoly on violence. So if you are a military in power, and they have access to the gun, human beings we can abuse power. That saying that
Yeah.
absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I think there is, as much as we are happy, that
Yeah.
the and Traore, I'm happy because he's young. He's like less than 35 years, and or just about 35
How
years. And
how old is he? 35, 34?
I think he's even younger. I think he's 33 or 32, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Okay.
That's a good sign because Africa 65% of Africa is under the age of 35. And most of our
Yeah,
leaders
yeah,
are
yeah.
in their 70s. So I think part of the
Yeah.
appeal of Traore is also because he's young, and he's got the energy, and he doesn't really follow the script that the 70-year-old establishment politicians in Africa follow. So I
Yeah.
like that about him. But in terms of the news, that if you are not in Burkina Faso and the news you see online about him, the diaspora
Mm.
is happy about him. This day of AI,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fake news also about him. So I take Traore's news about him with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But you personally, do you like Traore or you don't? You're neutral.
I'll be neutral at this point, because
Mm.
history hasn't shown. I'm for democracy. Like I think not as the system of regular elections, but I think
Yeah.
um, as a as a virtue. I feel like even in conversation, you have to
Mm.
have dialogue. Two people have to talk. Where if it comes to governance, the the leader should say something, and they should also consult with the people that they are governing. I don't think that leading by force or taking decisions for people, that for the better, for that the decision will improve them, is necessarily the right approach. I feel like any kind of leadership should be all inclusive. It should include everybody. Everybody should have a voice at the table. And I don't know whether military juntas necessarily bring that. The military is usually, they have a strong leader, and he backs orders and you follow the orders. I don't know whether that aligns with a democratic virtue or not. But you could also have benevolent military leaders. So how Traore ends up, I just hope that power doesn't corrupt him at some point, and he starts doing stuff. But also, even if you think about somebody like Kwame Nkrumah, it's only now that people don't even know that he was removed from power, also because of propaganda, and the Ghanaians that didn't want him at the time, protested against him at the time, were basically fed. We didn't have AI back then, but the American intelligence worked on them to basically say that, the economy is hard because of Nkrumah's policies, etc. So they wanted him out. That could be the same propaganda that we are facing with Traore, where now you have somebody who's like, all right, because Traore is president, he wants to be in exile in Ghana and not live in Burkina Faso because he's afraid of his life. And the more you have people like that, the lines will get blurred between whether Traore is actually pro-development or he's also oppressing his people. Same thing with Mugabe. I'm sure yeah, initially he was a well-loved leader, and then
Yeah.
after a while, um, his own people turned, some of his people turned against him. But part of the reason why they turned against him was actually not based in fact, right? It's because they were fed information,
Yeah.
and also about also things that didn't really make sense. The people wanted to like buy. I don't know. I think I have to be fact checked on this, but like importing goods like corned beef, tuna,
Yeah.
sardine. The cost of imported goods became too expensive,
Yeah.
and because we were inconvenienced by that, they were like, look, and they became expensive also because the West were like, hey, if you want to go your own way, then we are going to make it harder for you to get these goods that you so like, so because people were frustrated that they couldn't get those imported goods, they were like, the economy is hard. And Nkrumah was saying, let's produce our own stuff. We don't need to get sardines from, or corned beef from Argentina. You can grow your own cow and kill your own cow, and people didn't like that, so they hated him and wanted him removed because of that. And some part of the army broke out and also used guns to remove him from power because they were like, hey, people are complaining about you, so that could potentially happen with Traore. And you know whether if once your own people rise up against you, you don't know whether they're rising up against you because of something you've actually done that's bad, or because something that somebody is telling them and they've used propaganda so much that they actually believe that, So that's what I foresee with Traore, unfortunately. Yeah.
So